Relationships are built on having context and knowledge about each other, knowing each other's interests and needs, and what you two have in common. And conversations are the main method of learning about each other. Say I'm a client of yours. You're doing a great job, of course. We're catching up and talking about the project at hand. And I'm sure you've been in this situation many times where there's nothing wrong with the conversation per se. But now let's say this. Somehow, through some magical way, they know you just finished Yellowstone and it's one of your favorite shows. And that you've been reading a bunch of Michael Singer's books and have really enjoyed them, having read a bunch of his others. Now, I happen to be on episode 3 of Yellowstone, and I'm personally wondering whether or not it's worth continuing. And people keep recommending that I read Michael Singer books. That ends up being a very different conversation. If I go into the conversation knowing all this information about you. And then, of course, you and I are connecting in a very different way. So instead of just talking about the project at hand, staying at like the work superficial level, we are now connecting at a much deeper level. That's a very different conversation. And so the question is, of course, how do I get that across? How to know more about what's going on in your life and frankly, even what to discuss, what to bring up with you, what your interests are. There are a few methods that you can implement. The first is just share it. When you first sit down to meet, and instead of the usual, hey, how's it going kind of stuff, you can share, hey, I'm not sure what you've been reading recently, but this is a book that I just finished this morning and it's really been on my mind. I really enjoy it. Or, hey, what TV shows have you been watching? I've been watching this show and I've really enjoyed it. The second, and this is what I actually implement, is the personal newsletter. This is something I've done for the past few years and I've loved the results. So once a quarter, I send an update of what I've been up to for the past few months. There's always a family update where we've traveled, what we're enjoying now. There's a work update, how every project is going, and challenges I'm facing, and key updates. And then there are the random bits. And I actually find the random bits to be some of the best fodder for conversation. I always talk about what I read or I'm reading, shows I've liked, random YouTube videos, workouts I've liked. I get incredible responses and suggestions. And it usually prompts a bunch of one-on-one discussions. Or the next time we talk, there's a good chance that they've read my newsletter and share a reflection or their own update. The last comes from Derek Sivers, and it's the Now page. It's pretty simple. Whether it's on your website, email subject line, social media bio, you link to a special page called Now. And that's a page dedicated to what you're up to right now. Not what you did 2 years ago, not blog posts, not your entire resume, but quite literally, what are you up to right now? What are you working on? What are you reading? What are you thinking about? I update mine every couple months or so because that's when I find there's usually just a key difference. I've had my slash now page in my email signature for the past few years, and it's been frankly incredible. I can be emailing with anyone, and occasionally someone will click on it, read it, and say, hey, we should talk about this. Now, I definitely abide by the mantra that if you want to be interesting, be interested in the other person. So I end up dedicating most of my conversations with people to learning more about the other person, their interests, their needs, what's going on in their life. I do still find it helpful for them to know about me. So having these tools makes it easier to achieve that. So again, if you want to build better relationships with people, having people know more about you can help. So consider starting off every conversation with just a little personal insight, having a personal update newsletter where periodically you're sending a bigger update about everything going on in your life, or having a slash now page where people can click through and easily see, getting ready for a meeting or just emailing back and forth with you, can see what you're up to.